No losses. Lose my foot and then fall, no, that's preposterous. Extend the neck, something like an ostrich. I get it, this flow could hold you hostage. But I'm not hostile, though those words are written all caps in my file. You'll never meet another docile, quite like me. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I hope you enjoyed the poem you just listened to. It's called No Losses, as you can see. It was just another freestyle, y'all. I was sitting at work like I am now yesterday morning in the wee hours of the morning, and I saw that beat in my news feed on YouTube, and I just hit play and I listened to it. I was like, dang, this sounds kind of fire, this beat. And so I just started freestyling to it like I always do, and obviously I wrote a poem based on the title, and that's what I came up with. It's a very short poem, but I like it. Right? It came out sounding good. I decided to go over to BandLab and record it. When I realized I liked what I was freestyling, I liked how it sounded. And so I recorded it in, like, the first or second recording is what that is that you just listened to. Is what you just listened to. Sorry for the poor grammar, y'all. This is what you just listened to. It was actually kind of offbeat. I don't know if y'all can hear it. I have a cadence. I've told you all this already. I don't rap. I'm not a rapper. If you really listen to what I'm doing, you can tell it's not rapping. But similar to rap, I do have a cadence where I'm saying the poetry over a beat to the rhythm. So I have a cadence and it's poetry. So similar to rap, it is a form of poetry. And I have a cadence, so it's very similar. But it's not rap. Anyway, so it was kind of offbeat, and I was like, okay, I'm probably going to have to do this again. But when I listened back to it, it sounded good. And for some reason, even though it was like a millisecond off beat, it went good with the beat, if that makes sense. That's happened to me before, where the cadence is there, but it's slightly off beat. And I listen back to it and it actually sounds fire. I'm like, okay, well, then this works. This is one of those moments, y'all. And I'm just doing what I always do at the end of these clips. I've explained in prior poems why I do the talking. Sometimes I do want to clarify the lyrics or expound on the lyrics if I feel like the meaning isn't clear. Anyway, that's what art is. It's left to the interpretation. You can get your own interpretation from art, even if it's not what the artist intended. But that's not really why I do the talking thing, y'all. For the most part, it's because I don't want the video to be a short. I've explained this in prior poetry videos, why I don't want that to be the case. I want it to go in the regular videos category. So I'll talk just so the video will be longer than 3 minutes, especially since my poems are typically short poems. And these days they've been even shorter. I notice my poems have gotten shorter and shorter, and it's not intentional. It's just what it is, you know? Anyways, y'all, hope you enjoyed it. This is not too much talking. Just one line I wanted to clear up. When I said extend your neck like an ostrich, I was talking about being nosy, like people being in my business. If you keep up with my content, you'll know that I'm a targeted individual. So obviously you have a bunch of people watching you all the time. And it's not always with malicious intent, but still it's like this fascination and you're targeted. So it's like you're on display and you're like a freak show kind of. I compared it to being like a circus act. So that's why I said extend your neck like an ostrich, because I'm talking about, like somebody breaking their neck being nosy. And then I said, I get it. This flow could hold you hostage, because I'm talking about the flow sign of fire and getting you caught up. But I'm also low-key figuratively talking about myself and how it's like this freak show circus acting where people can't look away. Anyway, so that's what it was, y'all. I hope you enjoyed the poem. Update on my health. I know in the last video, if you listen to the whole thing towards the end, you'll have heard me say that I got an injury in the gym. I deadlift real heavy, y'all. If you've watched my videos, so, I have some clips here on YouTube with me deadlifting. I recorded myself deadlifting 300 pounds. You see it there, 300-pound deadlift. I showed myself doing a 370-pound hack squat. I push heavy weight, y'all, and I didn't realize that I was at risk for injury as a female doing those things if you don't do it correctly. It's not doing it in general. It's putting that pressure on the pelvic floor and not ensuring that you're lifting correctly. that can make you susceptible to injury. And there's something scary out there called pelvic prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse. It's real scary stuff, y'all, if you do your research on it. And it's apparently something that's really common amongst females, but typically it happens from childbirth, from giving birth, and not from weightlifting. So I had to be the special that got it from weightlifting, right? I don't know if that's what I have. I'm just, that's a possibility with the symptoms I've been having. If it is that, it's a minor case, but nonetheless still devastating, because if you listen to the description of that ailment, it's something that's almost like a permanent thing. It's like a life sentence type thing when you get that, but at the same time it's manageable, and it's something that you can live with. You can live a relatively normal life with it. You can do therapy. Typically they say the surgery is ineffective. You can get surgery for it as well, but then you have to move on eggshells, and you have to be careful, and you can't do too many things. You can't lift too heavy, this or that, especially if you're someone like me that's an athlete. That's no bueno. So what they actually recommend is you do therapy. And if you do therapy and lifestyle changes, like making sure you're taking collagen and things like that, you can reverse the ailment. But it's still this thing where you have to be cognizant now of your body and how you're doing things. And if you go back into sports and stuff, which I plan to do, obviously, I'm still working out right now, you have to be careful about how you're lifting and stuff. You have to make sure you use them, not just like proper technique, but also like there's certain ways that as a woman that you should lift, and it's different to how you would do it if you were a man, or if you weren't dealing with this situation. And really, y'all, I have good lifting technique, just so you know. I'm very particular about how I lift, and I'm anal, and I get up like really into anything that I'm into. If I'm into a sport, I get really into it. If I'm into an activity, I get really into it. So I have good lifting form. That's not what the problem is. If you listen to the last video, you'll hear what happened. I did a 315-pound deadlift, and I got distracted. There was some gang stalking taking place, and a gang stalker interacted with me and ended up having the weight unevenly distributed on the barbell, and I didn't realize it until after I did the lift. So it was a 315-pound deadlift, and 3 plates were on the left side and 2 were on the right side. So when I actually lifted the barbell, it's like off balance. I was like, what is going on? And I didn't realize until I started to unload the plates that there were 3 plates on the left side and 2 on the right. So I believe that caused a strain. And then the next day was my core day. I like to work out my abs or my core on Wednesdays. And of all weeks, I chose to do like this intense, crunch session, a different set of core workouts to what I typically do. And I did it to failure. And that was when I really started to feel like this excruciating, like strain and pressure on my lower area. So I believe there was a strain there from the improper, super heavy deadlift. And then I went and I did those crunches to failure, put more pressure on the area. And then the day after that, I did some intense sprinting. I've told y'all in recent videos I've been sprinting, and that's a part of my workout routine now. So it was just a lot of activity and strain on my pelvic floor, and improper lifting, heavy ass improper lifting. And the next day after the sprinting, I woke up and I had swelling down there and pressure, and started doing my research. I still haven't been to the doctor yet, by the way, y'all. Life of a target. I'm trying to get insurance. When I was teaching a couple of years ago, before the targeting went viral, and before I tried to relocate off island, remember I resigned for my teaching job, y'all, and I tried to relocate off of the island where my targeting started, and it went viral due to some reactions I had when I realized it followed me. So anyway, long story short, I'm back on island, y'all know that, and I'm not teaching anymore. I'm doing security. I'm trying to get back in school to get my master's degree, but at the moment I'm in limbo as far as a career goes. I'm doing security to make money. They don't offer insurance, so I don't have insurance. I tried to get insurance. I have enough money to pay for it out of pocket. I was just going to try and get my own individual insurance. Apparently here on island, you can't get insurance on your own unless it's through a job. So if you're getting it on your own, you have to go through Medicaid, basically. And so obviously that's a process. And so that's just a long story, y'all. Remember I told you I'm going to keep you updated if you watched the last video, because I typically don't talk about the targeted individual stuff in my poetry videos. And I'm doing that now. I'm not meaning to. I just wanted to give y'all an update on what's going on with me. But anyway, so it's been almost, like a week and a half since the incident, and I haven't really seen a doctor. I went to the ER and I had a doctor look at me very briefly, and she didn't really look at me thoroughly. And she was telling me, oh, everything feels okay. And I said, are you sure? I said, there's swelling down there and it's poofing out. I was like terrified. I said, there's poofing and everything. I said, I've never seen the kind of poofing I'm seeing. And so then she had me stand up and she saw what I was talking about. And then she told me that I need to see like my primary care physician or my gynecologist. And because they don't have the person that does the MRIs, wasn't in the hospital at the moment. It's a small island, y'all, with one hospital. So she was telling me the person that does the MRIs was not in at the moment, and I need to set up an appointment with my doctor, basically my OBGYN. And she wrote on the paper hernia. I don't think it's a hernia, just from the research I've been doing and stuff. I don't know really. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think it's a hernia. From the symptoms I'm having and the research I did, it's either that I'm having early stage minor pelvic organ prolapse, or it was just a really bad injury and a really bad strain, and I'm having some sort of lymphedema where like the fluid filled up in the area and swelling and pain because of it. So I'm not really sure, y'all. I have to see a doctor. But I'm not fitting all of the symptoms for pelvic organ prolapse. Besides the pressure and the swelling on top of my private parts, y'all, I don't have anything hanging out. If you look at the research of what pelvic organ prolapse is, y'all, it's literally one of your organs drop down, either your uterus, your bladder, or your rectum. And it starts to protrude out of, if it's the rectum, it's coming out your butt. But if it's typically what happens with females, your uterus or your bladder, it starts to protrude out of your vaginal opening. It's real scary stuff, y'all. It's scary, but it's at the same time not life-threatening, and it's apparently very common in females, and it's manageable. Like I said, if you do therapy, pelvic floor therapy, you can strengthen the area and help lift the organ back up into place, and then you just have to make sure you're safe in your lifestyle. You can work out and do everything you did before, but you have to be very careful about how you do things. Anyway, so nonetheless, I don't know if that's what it is because I don't have anything coming out of me. So it could be very early, like stage 1 pelvic organ prolapse, which still would be good news for me because I can easily reverse it with therapy. Or like I said, it could just be a really bad injury and I'm having pain and swelling and stuff. And that's why I'm not seeing anything coming out. I don't know, y'all, but I don't think it's a hernia. I really don't, from the research I've done and from what I'm feeling and seeing. But I'll keep y'all updated. Like I said, I didn't mean to really even talk about this stuff in this video. This is a poetry video, and I don't typically mix the targeted individual stuff with the poetry. Sometimes I do, because a lot of my poetry is about my experience. But even this poem here that you just listened to a little bit, right? But I looked at the last video, the thumbnail, while I'm talking. I'm looking at it, say health scare, and I remembered that I wanted to give y'all an update. So you're getting that here in this video. Anyway, I'll talk to you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed the poem. Peace out.